All the way from Poland, we've got the lead game designer on Dying Light 2. This is Tymon, and I just had an incredible demo, my friend.
Thank you so much. Did you like it? Did you really like it?
I was like yelping. I was in the front row going, oh my God. Take us into the sort of plot of the game and the setup with the factions and the captain.
I don't want to spoil too much, but what I can is that your name is Aiden Caldwell.
My name is Aiden.
You enter the city looking for a cure. You are infected and you need that cure because otherwise you will turn into a zombie.
I am infected.
So you start looking for a cure and you realize that there is something fishy going on in the city. There is some kind of an intrigue there. So there are two main factions that fight over the control of the city. These are the scavengers and the peacekeepers. And there are a couple of other groups, factions that play a part in this narrative as well. And you also realize there's a lot of people, like regular people, normal people, that just try to survive another day. Like the survivors, like just generic survivors, you could call them. But then you realize there's also something about them, and it is getting thicker and thicker and thicker, and at one point you really have to get engaged in that, and something happens. And so, but sorry guys, like I say too much usually, so I just.
I love the first Dying Light as well, and I don't, it was kind of a surprise to all of us, I think. I think you guys were like nervous.
We were also surprised by the reception of the game because we thought this will not do much. Like we believed this is a good game, but we were just a small studio out of Poland, so no one really heard about us that much. Of course, after the Island, which was our first zombie game, this was slightly better, but still we were nervous. But then the reception was phenomenal. So yeah, we are here with Dying Light 2.
And it just kept growing and growing and growing. Exactly. Is that how you kind of build the confidence to elaborate on storytelling and give you a lot more choice as a player, give us a lot more choice as players?
After the first game, we gained a lot of confidence that we should just trust our instincts. But there's one thing about the first game that, to be honest, we didn't like that much, and that was the narrative. Not the narrative itself, but the linearity of the narrative. Sure. We have created a game where in combat, in parkour, you got this phenomenal sense of freedom, but in story you had to follow the race laid by the script writers. So we wanted to create a game which would at least try to give you the same amount of freedom in narrative, and that's where we are with Dying Light 2. We have a system which we are calling the narrative sandbox, and this is a system that if you make choices, you change the narrative. But also another thing that we added to that is that those decisions, those choices also shape the city around you. So with those decisions, you can basically create the sandbox space around you, the city in which the game takes place in.
That's awesome. It was a great surprise to see Chris Avellone, to be a part of all of this. We found out about that last year. Were you guys already far along with kind of getting your story together and then you brought him in, or was he there from the beginning?
Without Chris, you wouldn't be able to do it, to pull it off, because as I said, we were just a small studio out of Poland, and we didn't have the experience to work and the mindset to work with non-linear narratives, and Chris is a master of that. He's basically a legend in that field. So of course first we were kind of shy to approach him, but then our game director Adrian Ciszewski has met with him and he presented the pitch for what we want to achieve with the game. He also said, but we don't know how to do it, at least the narrative part. And that, I think Chris really got excited about the idea, and he joined us. He shared his knowledge, he shared his experience. He helped us not only build the world in which the game takes place in, but also our own in-house writers team, because we had to get that knowledge how to work with these branching narratives from someone, and Chris was kind enough to share that knowledge. So
you have this medieval kind of backdrop here, and it's set in present day, but all the structures are there. Is that a tip of the hat to the cities around Europe and how that sort of coexists?
So two things to mention. The first one is that we have created a visual style, but also a theme to the whole game, which we call Modern Dark Ages. And this basically takes what's modern, what's around us, and we put structures, wooden things that the survivors build that give those places kind of like a medieval look. And another thing is that when it comes to weapons, our game is based on melee weapons, so it's axes, it's hatchets, it's maces. So you could say, okay, these are medieval weapons, but they are made from modern material like plastic, gas pipes, stuff like that. So there's really a very interesting clash. And also when it comes to the city, this is a fictional European metropolis. We were looking for something that could be at the same time familiar yet kind of alien, and that's so you don't get scared by the city, but also want to explore it, want to find more about it. So you will find inspirations from all over Europe, like Budapest, Paris, Berlin, everywhere, even Wrocław, our home city.
Very cool. Yeah, when you look at the game and you sort of break it down, it's like a fusion of Assassin's Creed because of that medieval thing, and it feels vital and fresh. It feels. Have you guys ever tried anything in VR? with this
Yes,
type of
actually,
experience?
Yes, we tried. We tried with the first game, but to be honest, our game is not really that good for VR. Why? Because it moves so fast. Everyone knows that one of the biggest problems with VR is motion sickness, and when you feel that you're moving, like you see that you're moving so fast, but you feel that your body is sitting in the chair, this is really difficult to have. So maybe we will come up with some different type of experience set in the Dying Light universe, but created specifically for VR.
What's more satisfying for you watching somebody new to Dying Light, do in the game? Is it the branching narrative and getting into different discussions and playing it differently than you conceived, or pulling off some wicked awesome moves in parkour?
I think gameplay, to be honest. I'm a gameplay designer, so this is like what I focus on, and this is really a game which has a lot of those crazy emergent moments. So this is something that rewards you even if it's not scripted. Like for example, in the demo that we're having here, there's a fight scene at the start of it, and usually it starts with you cut one guy's head, and so the head flies over. But in one of the sessions, we had a moment where the head flew over, but it hit another guy in the head and broke his nose, so he started bleeding. So there are moments like that basically you don't script, you don't expect them to happen, but they happen, and this is really crazy. This is the moment where you say, wow, did that really happen? And that's what I like most about it.
It's one of the best demos I've ever seen at E3, and I cannot freaking wait for this game, man.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
Thank you very much.